So there are various business immigration programs for Canada that you can use as a vehicle to come here. There are some federal immigration programs and there are some provincial immigration programs. The provincial immigration programs, we call them PNP programs. Today what we will do is we'll talk about the total costs that are associated when you come here, how much money that you need to spend, the expenses, the visible ones and the hidden ones. So this video is more about the costs associated with the business immigration programs for Canada. My name is Ravi Virk and I'm an immigration consultant. I'm a regulated immigration consultant and I've been practicing immigration consultancy in this country for the last 15 years. Let's talk about different types of business immigration programs before we try to talk about the expenses. There are federal programs, for example, ICT, the Intra-Company Transfer, C11 Honor Operator. Now there are many other programs as well, but these are the main two popular ones as far as the federal programs are concerned. And then under provincial programs, not all the provinces have business immigration programs, but some of them the structure of these programs is more or less the same. In fact, if we talk about the structure of the programs, we see that there's a common fiber to all of them, whether federal or provincial. So before we talk about the different costs that are associated with each step, let's understand what are the different steps that you need to take. So these programs, they expect you to first of all use an exploratory visit to come to Canada, to explore whether this business will be viable for you or not. I mean, if it is a provincial program, you need to visit that province to find out which project would be good and which city that you want to set up your project for. That also is very crucial. If the city is a mainstream city of the province, then the cost might be a little higher. If it's somewhere outside of the main jurisdiction, let's say if it is, we are talking about Manitoba, the main city is Winnipeg. Let's say you're in British Columbia, the main city is Vancouver. So any business that you set up in Vancouver, there is a region called GVRD, the Greater Vancouver Regional District. So the cost associated with GVR, any business that is set up in GVRD will be a little higher. Now, that's the very first step that you need to take, exploratory visit. So once you're here in Canada, then you're going to the, let's say the local chamber of commerce, or maybe you're going to a local relative or a friend who will assist you, or maybe a local investor who will invest in your company or will help you in some way. And then you need to find out what kind of project you will do, whether it's a running project that you need to buy, an existing business that you can buy, or you want to set up a brand new business. So once you decided, then you go back to your home country and then you do planning, make a business plan, and then you approach the immigration authority. If it's a federal authority, let's say under C11 or ICT, then you need to go back to them and present your plan. Also understand that while you're doing all this, you would be in touch with some kind of a professional, whether it's a law firm or a consulting firm who's helping you in all this. Doing this all by yourself is going to be a very daunting task. It does require a lot of research, a lot of marketing data you need to do all by yourself. So I would always suggest that hire a good professional, somebody who's been doing, let's say, mostly business visas, business immigration visas. So let's say you work with a professional who helps you to write a good business plan, and then you approach the immigration authorities back again, and then you get some kind of an approval. Now the approval comes to you either as a work permit for 1 or 2 years, or they may even give you a conditional PR. Now conditional PR is not exactly a PR. It's a permanent residency certificate, but with some conditions on it. The conditions could be that once you come to Canada, you have to set up that project. Setting up the project does not mean that you simply do what you say on your business plan. It also means that you might have to generate a certain number of employment under that project, invest minimum amount, that's called minimum investment. You may also be asked to prove that you have been actively managing your business. So these are some of the main conditions which you have to fulfill. Now, if it is a work visa related program, for example, if it's a BCPNP program or a federal program, especially the federal programs, they give you a work permit. Now, once you get the work permit to come to Canada, set up your project, then after, let's say, a year or two, then you apply for the PR. So what does that mean? That means you are spending 2 to 3 years, maybe 3 to 4 years, developing your plan, developing your project, and bringing your family with you while you're on a work permit. Maybe you come by yourself, maybe you come with your family. So spending 3 to 4 years here would entail some kind of cost, living costs, and of course sundry costs also. So once you apply for your PR, let's say if it's a federal program, now you'll be tying your PR application into express entry. So you also have to be very mindful whether you score enough points. Now if you spent all this time, all this money and effort, and 2 or 3 years down the road you find out that you did not meet the express entry cutoff points, that would be a disaster. So then whatever cost you have paid goes waste. So what do? Generally what we do is we need to figure out, before you apply for these kind of business immigration programs, to figure out whether it's a federal program, if it's tying into an express entry program, whether do I qualify or not. How many points am I going to get? Whether I get 50 points, do I get 200 points? So there's a range here, and if you are already at a threshold which is not meeting, even if you get 200 points, then you need to be very careful which program you apply under. So once you have finished meeting the conditions of the program, or let's say once you have submitted your application under express entry and you're meeting all the selection criteria, then you can rest assured that your PR may come. So be mindful not only of the cost, but also the complications, the steps that you're taking, and also the timelines. So all these things you should be aware of before you apply for any business category permanent residency program. Let's talk about the costs. So costs of a business immigration program is more like an iceberg. So what is the definition of an iceberg? An iceberg is 1/8 visible and the rest is all invisible. So most of these costs that we research while talking to a consultant, while going on many YouTube channels, and researching wherever you can, maybe talking to your friends or relatives who have migrated before, you will realize that some of the costs, or even going on a Canadian Immigration Authority's website, these costs are sometimes not as visible. There are some latent or hidden costs also. So today what we'll do is we'll try to figure out what's the total expense that you pay. So I have divided these costs into 2 different categories. Some are visible and some are latent or hidden. So let's talk about the visible costs associated with these programs, federal or provincial. So now, as we explained, that there's a common structure to all these programs, and these costs are associated with different stages. So what's the very first stage? The very first stage is that you need to come to Canada on an exploratory visit. So you need to apply for visitor visa. So that means you need to pay some immigration fees, processing fees to the government. Then after that you buy some tickets for yourself, or if you're coming with your family, any business partner or any friends that you're coming here, you need to plan your air travel. After that you come here, you need to plan for your stay. I generally would plan for 3 to 4 weeks minimum. Then boarding, lodging, local transportation, you need to take that also into account. When you're here, you also need to plan to meet different professionals in the industry. I would certainly meet some law firm or some immigration firm that could help you in this program. Even though you may be a very successful professional, or you may have lots of business acumen, maybe a very successful business person also in your home country, but when you're coming to a country like Canada, the laws are different here. The human resources laws are different, accounting laws are different, tax laws are different. So you need to understand all those. Some person who has brought people, any one of these categories, whether that person is an immigration consultant or a lawyer, you need to be in touch with that person. So I would definitely do some effort to talk to some of these consultants and professionals. Then you also need to talk to some real estate people who would help you in identifying some properties or some land, or wherever you're planning to also take you around and show you different areas, which city is good for you, what kind of projects you can undertake. So, and also some accountant who would help you understand how the accounting would be done. And also, when you're here, it's always a good idea to visit the local Chamber of Commerce, so that you know what kind of projects you can undertake. And maybe there's some priority for some projects, you can talk to somebody there, gather as much data as you can. So there is definitely some cost involved with all this. Some people do charge, some accounting firms, some law firms, some real estate firms, they may charge you. Some of these people may actually give you this advice for free also. So if I am in the vicinity, I will take at least help from at least 3 different consultants or professionals from each field, so that when I go back home and ask them to give me quotation, I have different quotations to go through and make a judgment call, which one is good for us. So then these are the costs associated with the exploratory visit. So once you go back to your home country, now some of these programs, in fact I would say most of these programs, do expect you to show your proof of funds. They also expect you to have a certain minimum net worth. So you need to prove that you have a certain minimum net worth. For that you need to engage some local person, local accountant, or somebody who can evaluate your total net worth. So there's a fees associated with that. Now most of these programs also expect you to write a business plan before they can offer you some kind of an invitation in form of a work permit or a conditional PR. So what does that mean? You need to hire somebody, some good person who can either write you a business plan, or if it is a part of a package that you get from your immigration lawyer or a consultant, then that's what it is. So these are the costs that you should definitely be taking into account. So once you've submitted your application, and let's say you have received an invitation to apply for work permit or a PR, then you go through that stage, and let's say you get your work permit or a conditional PR, you come to Canada. Now, at that time, you can make a plan to come either all by yourself, or you can bring your family with you. So if you're bringing your family with you, then there would be costs associated with your kids, with your wife, stay, and you should plan, let's say even if you get 2 years work permit, but you should definitely plan for minimum 3 years, because sometimes things go wrong and you need to extend your stay here. So next 3 to 4 years you will be spending in this country developing your project. If it's a provincial program, you're going into that province, you must have already selected a city where you're going, and in that city, where you stay, where you put your kids, which kind of schools they go to, and if their schools are free for kids, but if you're sending them to college or any university, some of the universities may give you a domestic fee, but some of them they don't. So you need to take that also into account, whether you're paying an international fee of college going or not. If you're planning to buy some property, these days Canada doesn't allow foreigners to buy properties, but some of these categories they do allow, and if they do, you are still paying about 20% extra from the people who are already permanent residents. So that's another cost that you need to be aware of. But if you're renting a place, you're leasing a place, then you don't need to be worried about that. Under these programs, you also need to be aware of the minimum investment that the government is expecting you. For example, there are some programs in BC, in British Columbia, they expect you to invest $250,000. There are some programs in Manitoba, $150,000. But understand that this is the minimum amount that they want you to invest. But more or less, you almost always end up investing more than the minimum. So if there's a $250,000 threshold, plan for $300,000. If it's $150,000, plan for $200,000 to $250,000. So I will generally take $200,000 to $250,000 as a benchmark for generally speaking. So hidden costs. Hidden costs are generally associated with the cost of your stay in Canada while you're developing your project, while you're seeking to convert your work permit or conditional PR into a PR. We generally plan for 1 or 2 years. That's what we are led to believe. If you research yourself, if you don't talk to a professional who can really help you, then we generally think that, it will take me a year, or maybe at the most 2 years. But in our practice, we have seen that business immigration programs generally tend to go 3 to 4, or maybe in some cases up to 5 years. So let's say you're staying here for 3 to 4 years with your family. There is a cost associated with that. Like a family of 4, let's say you have husband and wife and 2 kids. Generally you take $50,000 to $60,000 per year of your cost. So that's a cost that you should definitely take into account. Then, of course, as we talked about, cost of education for your kids if they're going to college. Now, it's kind of a borderline hidden or visible. Some people can identify it and this becomes visible, but most of the people don't really identify that as a cost. So it's, definitely need to take that into account. Then you also need to take into account something that we generally don't think about, that when you're leaving your home country, you have not received the full permanent residency, but you have left your profession or your running business behind. The loss of income that you would be accruing for the next 3 to 4 years is hidden. Sometimes we don't think about it. For next 3 to 4 years, you will be dependent entirely upon your savings that you have done in your home country. If you don't have a profession, you don't have any business running in your home country, in this country you're simply investing. You're starting your project. It may take 3 years, it may take 4 years. Where's that money coming from? From your savings. It is definitely a very big chunk of your hidden cost. So that's something that you need to be aware of. It's a loss of income. So yeah, so that's another cost that I always ask my clients to think about, which particular program they're going under. Now, another cost that I always want my clients to think about is that since you, as I said, that you may be a very seasoned businessman in your home country, but when you come here, you're dealing with different laws, not only laws, but different society. You know, mainstream society may be a little alien to people who have not done any studies here or who haven't been here to these countries. So dealing with your staff, you know, dealing with the different agencies within the ecosystem of your business that you're developing, that sometimes has some repercussions. For example, you may end up hiring more staff than you need. Maybe sometime you're understaffed. So you may end up spending more time by yourself, or maybe you may unnecessarily seeing a lot of people leaving your project, or you may need to hire more people at that time. So there are costs, hidden costs that are there that you cannot foresee beforehand. Minimum investment is one thing, but as you continue to extrapolate your project, you need to have some exigency plans. And that would depend upon your own business acumen, how much business experience you have in the field that you're developing your project. If, let's say, the project or the concept that you're developing here, or the business you have bought here is little alien to you, then you would definitely need extra set of skills. So if extra set of skills means maybe you need to hire more staff, maybe need to hire different kind of professional to help you with that. So this is a hidden cost that you don't really envision before you come here. Also understand that most of these programs give you either a work permit or a conditional PR. These are not direct permanent residency programs which you can work on in your home country, come into this country as a landed immigrant, as a landed permanent resident immigrant. No. So there's always a sense of insecurity that you're carrying with yourself. So be very careful what kind of program you choose. Now, there are some programs which you can use to come to this country, which are business immigration programs, where you don't have that kind of insecurity, whether you will need to go through all these different steps, different stages, hidden costs, and all that. Startup visa program is one such program. It's pretty straightforward. It's a federal program. You're not obligated to stay in a certain province for a certain time. You're not obligated to set up your project in a certain for a certain period of time. And also, it's a straight away permanent residency program. You can stay in your home country, get your PR, and then come here. And it's also not very expensive. It also doesn't take 3 to 4 years. So I would suggest that you study a little bit more about startup visa before you think about working on these programs. We have a different video on that program also, so you're more than welcome to check that video also. And if you like this video, please do subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching this video.